Welcome to the Breathe Life podcast, a space where women and girls can breathe again, heal honestly, grow intentionally, and have real conversations about the things people often hide behind smiles. I'm your host, Dr. Yonnicka, and today's conversation is one I think so many people need right now. Because sometimes people ask us how we're doing, and the easiest answer becomes, I'm okay. Even when we're overwhelmed, even when we're anxious, even when we're emotionally exhausted. Today's episode is called Tired of Being Okay. And joining me today is someone with a true heart for women, discipleship, emotional growth, and purpose, Bria Bradshaw. Bria, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Yonnicka. It's my honor and privilege to get to be here today.
So I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited that we're having this conversation because it's a conversation that needs to be had, right? So many times
Yes.
we just really don't feel okay, but on the outside, we have to perceive as though we are. So, my first question for you is, why do you think so many girls and women feel pressure to hide what they're really feeling?
Oh, it's such a great question. I think one of the challenges, and I'll speak, Dr. Yonnicka, from my own experience. I was once a
Yes,
teen girl and grew up in a home where perception was everything, how people viewed us, how people, it was all about reputation and what type of story my life was telling in front of people. And so I think one of the primary pressures is expectations, the
right,
expectations that are self-imposed, but also the expectations of those external, those around us. What do our siblings think of us?
right.
What do our peers think of us? And especially as teens, peers' opinions matter so much. They matter
Absolutely.
so much at that time and in that season of life. And what I recognize is that adds pressure because what others think of us is taking the seat, the higher seat versus one, what does God think of me?
Right.
How does God see me? How has God created me? But then also sometimes, and I found myself in this situation often, was I was attempting to get ahead of what opinions people would have of me by presenting what I thought they wanted me to be
Right.
like. And so I wanted to be the most responsible in the room. I wanted to perform well academically. I wanted to be ahead and excel because I knew when I did that, people praised me, they highlighted me for it, and I enjoyed that feeling. I liked that feeling. And so I, in turn, would pressure myself to become something that I truly wasn't. If I wasn't okay, it was really difficult for me to say so because everyone else expected me to be okay.
Yeah, that's so true. And that brings me to my next question because it goes along the lines of exactly what you were just saying, right? You're feeling so much pressure because you want to be the best, you want to stand out, you want to make it known and seen that, yeah, you are that girl that. You have everything together and you don't need to get the opinions and satisfaction of anyone else, but inside, deep down inside, you feel like you do. And so
Yes.
this brings us to the next question. Do you think social media has made emotional pressure worse for girls today?
Oh my goodness. Yes, it truly has. And it's heartbreaking, honestly, because there are these constant moments that teens are encountering when they are on social media, seeing these highlight reels and edited versions of someone else's life and comparing their real life and their real struggles to it. And I have found, honestly, that pressure existing even with adults. So recognizing
Yes.
how difficult and heavy that must be for a teen who is still developing, who is still growing and learning who she is and learning her identity and being thrown into this. And I mean, it's an endless scroll. It never
Yes, it is.
stops. If you
It
keep
is.
swiping, more content will show up, and what's
Right.
trending and who's cute and cool and
Right.
what clothes to wear. And there is this constant mirror before them telling them you're not good enough, you're not measuring up. And so and here are the ways in which you can measure up. And so they are constantly trying to achieve that. I mean, I've seen where young girls will learn a trend, a new dance trend that's
Yeah.
happening on social media.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I have seen where one person doesn't know it or is unfamiliar with it, how excluded they become by not being aware of it or not having any
Right.
idea. And so then that young girl is trying very hard to fit in, to keep up. They want to they're learning, hey, this is how I can survive here. This is
Yes.
how I can fit in here. This is how I'll be accepted. And and so they do they there is this weight that falls upon their shoulders to always measure up and to always be um exactly where everybody else is trying to tell you to be. And that's a lot. That is a
Yes, it is.
lot for
It is.
an adult woman to carry, let
Right.
alone a teen girl. And so I see it all the time where so many of these girls are learning how to do this survival thing emotionally without actually really learning their identity and how they can rest in who they are and who been created to be, because that was God's design and intention for them.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I loved the point that you said. It's like an endless scrolling and looking at
Yes.
themselves in a mirror that doesn't even exist, the
Yes.
phone, right? But it's
Yes.
the point that they're seeing what it is that they feel like they should look like and feel like they should do and feel like they should be included in. But that's just not them. That's not who
Yes.
God created them to be, and they're individuals. And I love that so much because it brings us to the next question. What
Mhm.
are some silent struggles girls are carrying right now that adults may not even notice?
Oh, oh my goodness. What I have recognized over time and in conversations, I don't find that the struggles themselves are any different than probably what many of us have come to experience. Obviously, we had different levels of exposure to things, but I think what
Yes,
that's created is just an added pressure and weight to some of the
absolutely.
same things that we dealt with. I think I dealt with comparison. Comparison existed in my
Yes,
teen years, but the level of pressure that
completely
comes
different.
with I have no idea what that looks like. So I really compare it to this to a difference in weight of what they're carrying. So the silent struggles, it's everything related to identity, not good
Yes,
enough, not will they like me? Am I accepted? Do I belong? And fighting for that. Being participating in social media. I see so many girls who look emotionally fine online.
yes,
If you look at their their page and all their photos and their stories and their chats, if you look at all of it on the outside, you would think that they are well, yet privately they are so overwhelmed
right.
because it's constant. It never ends. This need to stay on top of being enough and being ahead of the trends and having the latest outfits and going to the trendiest restaurants and going to this place for vacation. And it is an intense struggle that I notice. And then also another struggle that I find, particularly with the young ladies who may not be in the most affluent of communities or have access to um, the fancier things.
Yes,
The struggle then is still comparison, but then it flips to the negative side where they then become more critical of themselves and they beat themselves up and they
that's
look
true.
they begin to view themselves in a more negative space and outlook rather than seeing where they are and the story that God's written for them as something beautiful.
That's so
And
true.
and that I see those two dynamics with the different types of girls that I get to be connected to and have relationship with. But what I find, like I said, the struggle they're carrying is often the same. Those
Yes.
same kind of underlying threads, questions like, do I belong? Am I enough? And am I safe here? Will they accept me? It's those same questions, but how they look and how they show up are very different depending on the environment and context that they're living in.
That is so true. I absolutely love everything you said. And it is really a struggle. Like you said it so well. Growing up, our struggles were different. Like we didn't have social media to
Right.
be comparing ourselves to and being on
Hmm.
and just living in this media world and age where everything is just whatever you see on the media,
Hmm.
whatever you see on TV, that's the perception. And like you said,
Yes.
going on their individual pages, looking at their pictures, it's that
Yes.
perception like, yeah, I have to appear as if everything in my life is fine. I have to
Right.
appear as if, I have everything well put together because when people click on my page and see my photos, that's the image that I want to portray. And so,
Yes.
yes, they are
Yes.
emotionally exhausted earlier now. They are under so much pressure to perform emotionally. They are living in a comparison culture. They're smiling while struggling internally. They're feeling
Mm.
responsible for everyone's expectations and they have a fear of disappointing people, including disappointing themselves. And so the expectations that they put on themselves are just so high. And that leads
Yes.
into the next question. Why do
Hmm.
you think girls feel like they always have to appear strong?
Oh, goodness. Wow. I strength, my goodness. This feeling of having it together or this pressure to have it together and that I'm doing okay and that I'm strong, that I'm getting through it can be for multiple reasons. If I could just share even a quick life story
Oh,
from
yeah,
myself,
absolutely.
I remember in my family we went through a very devastating loss. A member of my family who was extremely, extremely valued in my life, my grandfather. I honored him, I
Mm,
respected him so much. And I remember at his funeral, I was telling my sister just under our breath, we were getting ready to walk through the doors. And I remember whispering to her saying, "Don't cry. Don't
yeah.
cry. Like we can't cry. Hold it together." As a matter of
Oh,
fact, my terms to her were hold it together.
yeah,
Hold it together. And here is the most authentic and true expression that both of us were holding in that moment was grief and
yeah,
tears and sadness. And even in that space, I wanted to not allow myself and therefore not allow her to fall apart.
yeah, yeah,
And I thought, hey, the best thing we can do right now is hold it together. So just
yeah,
hold it together. And I think that is a picture of what happens in every case. My life story is filled with so many devastating moments, and I'd be at home and our house would be going through turmoil. And we get to school the next day, and it was as if none of that was ever happening. I
Yeah.
had to put on the face and move forward. And it really wasn't until I'll tell you the moment when it became okay to not be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was when another person chose to
Wow.
share about something broken going on in their home. So I remember, 12, 13, 14 years old. And I remember it just took one person at the table to start sharing about something devastating that was raw, that was vulnerable. And I
Yes.
mean, like it didn't take long at all before everybody else started to say what was going on in their life and their story. And
Right.
so I think it's these environments or conditions that are created that everybody feels this pressure to be strong, that the
Yes.
moment one person decides, I'm just not going to try to be strong today and I'm going to be real about what's happening in my life, then
Yes.
it begins to give permission. It's automatic permission for everybody else then to be vulnerable, um, and recognize what great strength it takes to be vulnerable in the world we live in today,
Right.
and the pressures that it is to always have on put your best foot forward, to
Yes. Yes.
always put on your brave face, even in the within the Christian perspective and in the Christian context.
Oh,
There are
absolutely.
a lot of times where, hey, let's take up this verse and just quote it when the Bible is full of scriptures that were
Yes.
deep lament and deep pain, brokenhearted moments that people were okay with not being okay, and they knew that they can express that genuinely and
Right.
honestly to the Lord. That the scriptures tell us, hey, bear one another's burdens.
Yes, it
um
does.
like but nobody wants to let anybody else know that they have a
That's true.
burden
That's
that they're
true. That's
bearing
true.
right
Once again,
now.
it's that image of being strong.
Yes, yes. And I think the deception there is that I have to be strong because that person over there is strong too. And I don't want to weigh them down with something that I'm carrying,
Yes.
or I don't want them to see that I'm hurting or that I have something going on in my life because I'm embarrassed about it. I mean, the stories are endless, or the reasons I think are endless as to why we believe we have to be strong. But I think it ultimately, again, just pulls at the underlying thread of, will I be safe if I let them into this thing that's really falling apart right now in my life?
Yes, absolutely. I love that you shared your story on grief and the passing of your grandfather. You know, that definitely is the epitome of strength. When you can say, hold it in a moment
Yes.
when it hurts the most.
Mm-hmm.
That is definitely the epitome of strength. And speaking of scripture, right? We are going to look at Matthew 11 and 28 because it
Yes.
says, come to me,
Yes.
all you who are weary and burdened, and I
Yes.
will give you rest. So that
Yes.
right there
Yes.
alone tells us that the burdens that we bear, like you said, some of the scriptures that we read in the Bible definitely show that God's people were lamenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
They
Yes.
were
It's a whole
in
book about it.
deep, right, lamentations.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so they took their grief literally
Mhm.
upon their shoulders.
Yes. Yes.
And they, I'm not going to say wallowed in their ashes, but they wallowed in their
Mm-hmm.
ashes, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they wore the cloak of
Yes.
mourning
Yes. Morning
until they were
periods. Yep.
able to
Mm-hmm.
get that release from whether it's crying it out or whether it's just time passing by. But I love that scripture because it just reminds us that exhaustion is not weakness
Yes.
and that we
Yes.
do have a savior that we can lay our burdens on. And we
Mm-hmm.
can truly get rest when we say we are not okay. We are just not okay. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so it brings us into our next section, right?
Yeah.
Because with the burden of, like you said, social media and the image comparison, we have, these young girls who are feeling like they have to uphold, their image against other people because they want to be on the same level and in the same environment.
Mhm.
What does anxiety look like in teen girls today?
Oh my goodness, anxiety. I am never engaged with a generation that has experienced more panic attacks,
Yeah.
I mean, just physically debilitating anxiety
Yes.
that um it is heartbreaking to know how crushing whatever it is they are experiencing on, even in the body, how crushing that is on them. And much of that, as we've already spoken about, and the honestly the data shows it too, much
Right.
of that is very much directly connected to engagement on social media
Yes.
and that endless comparison. And what I find is that game of comparison, it just is quietly convincing every girl that I encounter that they're behind in life. And so to always feel this weight and pressure that I'm behind, anxiety just begins to creep into those
Yes.
spaces.
Yes, it does.
The stress, I mean, it stress, everybody can handle a good amount of it. There's a safe amount, a healthy amount of
Yes.
stress in our life. But when it moves into the place of anxiety where again, I mean, I've seen and experienced some people where it's so crippling that they cannot even move forward.
Yes.
Or their physical body is impacted by it so deeply that I mean, they are experiencing awful chest pains, passing
Oh,
out. I
yes.
mean, physical things. But it's just this, our their brains are taking in information at a rate that our brains were never created and designed to take it in at.
Right.
And they're trying to process it all, trying to sort it in their heads, and again, along with that, attempting to work through the natural developmental challenges of
Yes.
learning how to navigate peer pressure, learning how to navigate comparison. Again, we've all experienced comparison, but that's different when it's the, maybe 50 other girls in my class
Right.
compared to the millions of girls
Right. Right.
online.
Yeah, that's so
It's
true. That's
it's
so true.
it's different. And I think it's really that I think the signs of anxiety are showing us the weight, that same weight I was naming earlier. It's just showing the weight that they are carrying that is very different from what we had to, and it makes it hard to rest mentally,
Yes.
um because the pressure to keep up is endless. Always figuring, am I enough? The emotional burnout is intense. And it's a lot. It's a lot to always feel this pressure to be perfect, to appear perfect. I've even talked with people and seen people make posts that are attempting to be vulnerable,
Yes.
but they're still staged. They're still
Right.
staged
Right.
posts.
That's,
They're
yeah.
still
And we know those
there's
posts. We know those
yes.
posts.
Yes, they're still inauthentic. They're not genuine. So even the appearance, even there's a pressure to appear vulnerable
Right.
rather
Right.
than be vulnerable.
And be authentic with it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I think that's what it starts to look like. Multiple signs: physically unable, constant comparing, constant overthinking. How does this look? Is this okay? I mean, I find that many of the girls aren't sure of themselves, and not in a prideful way, but there are
Right.
some who carry confidence that, oh, I've prepared for this, I've worked hard for this, I've practiced for this. And there's a healthy amount of confidence that we would see in young ladies that I think is often missing because many of them are carrying a lot of doubt, a lot of self-doubt, are unsure of
Yes, they
themselves,
are.
unsure of what they're that if what they're bringing to the table is enough.
Right.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's
That's
difficult.
that's so true. That's so true. And you brought up overthinking and you brought up, being healthy. And so the next question along the same lines is how does overthinking quietly affect emotional health?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm just pulled right back even to that verse, that inability to rest. I think one of the keys to emotional health is a sign of our ability to actually be at rest.
Yes.
And I'm not even saying that everything in life is going well or perfectly, but can it be well in my soul
Oh
despite
yeah.
what's
Oh yeah.
happening
Oh yeah. That's a huge one.
around me? And I think because overthinking is constantly keeping that individual at the control panel of their life and their story. So it's like, okay, I need to fix this. Maybe I should do this. Can I do that? The overthinking is constantly keeping me at the control panel.
Yes.
Whereas in that place of rest and answering the invitation of Jesus in Matthew 11:28 of coming to me. Hey,
Yes.
take what I'm carrying on you and I'll take
Right.
what you're carrying. Well, that requires me to give it up.
That is
And
so true.
there's an act of trading. Let me trade this heavy
Yeah.
load and
Yeah.
take on what Jesus is offering as the light one. And when we are in this posture and place of constant overthinking, constant evaluation of what am I doing right now? Is what I'm doing good enough? How does my social media page look? How is my work academically? Am I perfect at my sport or extracurricular activity?
Yeah.
Have I organized and planned my life to a T? Do I know the next 5 years of my life and what my goals are? I mean, all of that overthinking keeps women at the control panel. And to move into a place of emotional healthiness is to almost take this posture of, I'm no longer at the control panel. I'm going to allow the Spirit of God to come in and actually move and guide my story in a way that maybe perhaps I never would have known. And I am at rest with that.
Love that. I love that.
I can rest because of that. Because sometimes when we give Jesus the wheel, when I get out of the car, to move to a
Yeah.
different analogy, if I've been driving the car called my life over and over and over for year after year after year, I have to come to a moment where I stop, get out of the car, and then let Jesus get into the driver's seat.
Amen.
And that takes a true moment and posture of surrender that I think
It
has to
does.
happen every day. It has
It
to happen
really does.
daily.
Yeah.
But it otherwise, if when we stay in the driver's seat, then we are constantly going to be thinking about, okay, where do I need to turn next? Well, okay, is that an accident up ahead? Okay, I need to pay attention. And those were not the burdens we were meant to be carrying. They were
Absolutely.
not. We were supposed to be able to sit in the passenger seat, or to take it a step further, become like children. And how about get in the booster seat in the back and
Yeah.
just ride,
That's what the word says. Become like children
Yes.
and allow Father
Yes.
to take over.
Yes. I don't know any 2-year-olds that are asking to be driving the car,
That
They
is
ride
so funny. That is
along.
so true.
They
That is
ride
so true.
along. And
Yep.
that's life when we move into the place of emotional health. But we will stay overthinkers. We will continue to be the ones carrying that anxiety as long as we are driving the story
Love
of our
that.
life.
I love
Yeah.
that. As long as we're driving the story of our lives. You couldn't have said that any better. That is such a good. I think I'm gonna write that on a post-it note and put it up on my mirror because
Yeah.
that is a constant reminder right there that we
Yes.
need to just surrender and just let God take full control. I love that.
Mhm.
What would
Mhm.
you say to the girl who constantly feels like she's behind everyone else?
Oh, I love that question so much. Oh, there are many things that I would love to say, but to the one that really feels behind, that where they are, just in comparison to others is behind. I think I would say to that young lady, number one, you are right where you're supposed to be. You
Oh,
are
love
right
that.
where you're supposed to be. Your position right now is purposeful. That
Wow.
every place we're in our story is one that we need to be in before we can even advance to what's next. So
Wow.
I would say to that young girl, hey, where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. And so take up all the space there that you should be taking up. Learn every lesson, like, experience God in every single part of that story, even the most painful ones. Um, and so that would be the number one thing I would say, that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, and the position you're in is a position that has purpose.
I
And
love
I
that.
would also say to that young lady, um, is that your race is different from everybody else's.
Wow. Powerful.
Your race is different from everybody else's. And so to compare your race to someone else's is like to compare an apple to an orange. They don't compare. You can't
Right.
compare them. They're
Right.
two
Right.
completely different things, serving two completely different purposes on
Absolutely.
this earth. And so your story, to look at your lane and then to look at someone else and where they are in their lane, we're not running track. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, we really
Yeah.
aren't, because those are competing against each other. But in our life, our route is our own. Our story is our own, and God is such a beautiful author that he would write that for a reason for you right now where you are. I just remember feeling so behind, in my young 20s and all the way through 20s into my early 30s. I remember just constantly feeling like I was behind when it came to relationships and being married. Every friend, when you're watching every friend
Oh
get
yeah.
married,
Oh yeah.
getting all the invitations to
Yeah. Yeah.
weddings, I remember that being a very clear season of life where I felt that I was always getting this message that I was behind, that I was
Wow.
behind. And I cannot tell you, the level of, just rooting that I did in that season of life to say, Lord, if this is where you have me, I am going to soak up every bit of it. I do
Wow.
not want to look back on this moment and go, all I did was lament over where I wasn't, that I missed
Yes.
what he had me in at that time. And so that's what I just say, teen girl, even adult woman, if you are in a space where you feel like that you are behind, let me tell you, please ask the Lord right now where you are. All right, what do you want me taking with me into what's next?
Yeah.
I don't want to look back on this day and go, man, I spent the whole time looking at where I was hoping I could be, rather than actually taking in everything God was, trying to provide for me, trying to say to me, trying to develop in me, that I missed it and I'm not prepared for what's next.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
absolutely love that. And I love how you brought up the comparison between apples and oranges, because I know that comparison gets thrown out there, right? Apples and oranges are two different things, but I love the concept that you use them in, right? They both are different. They both look different. They both taste different, but
Mhm.
they both still serve a purpose, and they both
Yes.
still add nourishment to our bodies. And so that right there just gives so much peace when you think about it that way. And it just adds so much value. And that's something that any girl or woman listening to right now can just
Mm.
sit and marinate in that thought. and just be at peace. And so when
Yes.
they're sitting there marinating on that thought and being at peace, it brings me to the next question.
Hmm.
Because now they're going to be scrolling on their phones with that peace, right? So, how can girls protect their peace online?
Oh, I think that's excellent. Number one, I would say I find that we have more impact on our algorithms than we think. There are some things that kind of show up randomly on our
Yes,
feeds,
they
but I
do.
would say be very intentional about your algorithms. Who are you following? I mean, I'm just very clear about what accounts I'm following.
Yes,
If something does pop up on my reels and the first second it's nothing that will edify me, scroll. Like,
so you
because
should.
that's teaching my algorithm I don't like that.
Right,
And then
right.
give the comment or share on the encouraging, uplifting content from the people that I know are bringing something that is actually building me up, speaking truth to me. I think that's one very practical way. The way we engage with the content will tell our algorithm whether or not we like certain things or
Yes,
what we
that's
don't
true.
like. So I think that's one practical way. And then I think another is the boundary of how much time we spend on there. I think
Mm,
this is for adults and teens alike.
hmm.
I know there are,
Yes,
parental guardrails that can be implemented. But I think just from a personal standpoint, I have time limits. Our devices are set up now that we are able to set time limits on what apps we engage with.
yes, we can.
There are some learning apps now that will say, "Hey, we will block your social media until you engage at least with this learning content," or something that's
Yes,
gonna
yes, yes, that's
actually
true.
nourish you or educate you. And so there are a lot of um I would say technological steps, practical things that can be done to really help protect that piece, to recognize, I think even an internal audit as you're taking in content is important as well. Hey, when I see this, do I notice comparison here? Do I
Yes.
notice that when I see this person's stuff, I kind of start comparing, or I kind of
Oh,
start
yeah.
looking. You can temporarily hide their content. It doesn't mean you don't want to be friends with them anymore. But if you know your heart is at a place where you can't have that, then step away from it. And then the
Right.
last, just personal spiritual practice that I hold, that I think is important for many people, especially in the context of social media, is to every so often I would seasonally abstain from social media altogether. Like,
Oh,
I would
yeah.
seasonally
Yeah.
cut it off,
Yeah.
in times and seasons where, you know what, to teach your soul that you don't even need it, to teach your heart
Right.
and your spirit and your mind. I can live without this. I
Yes.
don't need to engage with this every day. I don't need to know if people hearted all my stories or commented on all my stuff. I think that's a very important rhythm that all of us can begin to integrate in our lives, is those healthy boundaries, and keeping the people around you and your algorithm in a very healthy place, again, especially in the online context,
Yes.
for sure.
I
Hmm.
love that. I love that. And speaking of, boundaries that you can set in place on your phone, I know after a certain time, my phone knows that it is my bedtime. Doesn't mean that I'm
Yes.
going to sleep at that time though, because I have so much work to do. But my
Mhm.
phone automatically knows after 9 o'clock, it is
Yes.
bedtime. So 8:59, it plays that lullaby music.
Oh,
9 o'clock, it just says, okay, it's time to go to sleep. And so if I take my phone up to go on YouTube, my phone automatically tells me, it's your bedtime.
yes.
You cannot be on
Yes.
this platform right now. You need to go to sleep. And
Yes.
I remember when I saw that for the first time, I literally had to laugh to myself because I'm like, okay, this is something that even though it's funny, but it's needed because it's one of
Yes.
those things that it's a safeguard. It's
Mhm.
causing us to have emotional, mental, physical health, right? You need to get your
Yes.
rest. You don't need to be scrolling on
Yes.
social media
Yes.
and, it's time to just get some rest. And it's also protecting our peace, like we talked about. So I love that you mentioned those safeguards that can be put up, and
It's so
it's
true.
it's so it's so needed for these young girls, especially because comparison when they're going online and scrolling, even in the middle of the night when they should be sleeping, it steals their peace, and then they can't go to
Mhm.
sleep because now they're thinking that, you know what, okay, let me see what is the next picture I can take to look like this person, or the next video I can record, or like you said, the dance moves that they can't really
Yes.
get. Let me see
Yeah.
how maybe instead of going to sleep right now, I could get up and practice these
Learn.
moves, right?
Yes.
So it's that constant pressure to keep up. It's the social media highlight reels, like you said, girls attaching worth to attention,
Mhm.
emotional burnout from constant scrolling, and the importance of disconnecting, unplugging, and just winding down and taking the time to say, okay, this time is just my time to unplug from this and just enjoy the other things that they are to enjoy in life.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I love that.
So
That's so
true.
important because many girls are silently measuring their worth against edited versions of
Mhm.
other people's lives.
Oof. Yes. Yes.
So many, so many,
Yes.
so many measuring cups that are being filled, right?
Yep. Yep.
Just because they're trying to measure up to
Yes.
people's edited versions of their
I
lives. Not
I
even
heard
true.
it said that we can have devices, but the devices don't have to have us.
I love that.
And
Yes.
and I think what you just named is so true. It's so true. Even that aspect of our whole self. Like there are so many experiences and encounters that I find people are looking down at a screen and not even taking in God's creation
Yes.
and the conversations that could be
Yes.
happening around. I can't tell you the number of times I've had to tell young people, hey, put your phone down. There's a
Right.
human being sitting right next to you
Right.
that you can
Especially at a
engage
dinner
with.
table,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Like
yes,
everyone, sometimes I have to just take a look at just one table if I'm, at a college and I'm just looking, or at a high school and
hmm,
I'm looking at just them sitting around and no one is talking to each other.
yes,
And I'm just
yes,
trying to examine it from, even growing up, like, wow, we didn't have this. We had to make conversation. We enjoyed the
yes,
conversations that we made too. We will talk and we will laugh. But now it's like
yes,
spending time together for these young girls especially, right, is just knowing that, okay, yeah, I have my girls here, but we're all on social media scrolling. And
hmm,
so it's just a
hmm,
different idea of spending time together, but it's not really spending time together. And
yeah.
so with that, it brings us to our next section and question.
This episode is also powered by Falera CRM. Falera helps churches, ministries, business owners, and growing organizations simplify communication, automate follow-up, manage email marketing, build online communities, and organize daily operations all in one place. From landing pages and automations to courses and client communication, Falera is built to help leaders spend less time overwhelmed and more time focused on people. Learn more at faleracrm.com.
Part 2 of this episode is coming next Wednesday. Stay tuned as we continue exploring these precious insights with Pastor Bria Bradshaw.